most original talk radio station anywhere. We are LA Talk Radio at latalkradio.com.
You're listening to Fouché Way with Brandon Fouché, right here on LA Talk Radio.
Well, hello, and welcome to the Fouché Way radio show, live every Thursday at 1 o'clock p.m., sponsored by a nonprofit organization called Canine Hope for Improvement Program, where we hope to improve the quality of our dogs' lives by moving towards a no-kill society. The number here is 818-602-4929. Well, good afternoon, and I hope everyone had a wonderful Christmas and that you will be having a good New Year, too. And remember to keep your dogs secure during the New Year's Eve, because there are still people who celebrate with fireworks and shooting off guns, and a lot of dogs are lost and killed during this time of the year because of that. So those of you who are new dog owners and don't know about that, then secure your dogs so that they won't be missing this new year. Well, with that being said, I'd like to start with a client of mine, a new client, and her name is Jane. And Jane has a wonderful little dog named Evie, and if you were to check the Facebook page, you will see Evie having a wonderful time jumping in and out of the pool, and with that, she's great, but she was having a problem. Jane was having a problem with Evie being dominant and assertive with her, and we want to hear her story. Hello, Jane, are you there?
Hey, Brandon, how are you?
Pretty good, Jane. This is a situation that happens a lot with people, you know. And can you tell us what's going on? You and your husband came to me, or first let's talk about what you've been doing before you came to me.
Yeah, so we rescued Evie from a shelter. She's a 3-month-old puppy. She's an American Staffordshire Terrier with Dutch Shepherd.
Is that a shelter here in L.A.?
Yeah, in L.A., exactly. North Central Shelter we got her from.
Okay. And
she's always been very energetic. But very recently she started to discipline me. And what would happen is we live near a trail where dogs walk off leash. And when we walk past a dog, I wouldn't let Evie go see the dog. Mm-hmm. So she'd turn around, grab the leash, thrash the leash, growl at me, jump on me, grab my arm, bite my arm. And this was pretty much every time we'd walk past a dog. Mm. So before we came to you, I'd been doing all the positive reinforcement, treats, trying to tire her out, playing catch. I had so many different kinds of control leashes. Mm-hmm. So just buying lots of books and trying to follow the advice in the books, which was all positive reinforcement.
Mm-hmm. Well, you know, this positive reinforcement, you know, it's my greatest obstacle to overcome, you know, and with people like you coming on the show, you're actually helping other people to understand what you have now realized. I mean, your arms are scratched up with her biting you, and you have actually become afraid of your own dog.
Yeah, I have. She's very clever. She knows exactly how to get me. And she knows when I'm not feeling confident with her, and that's exactly when she'll turn around and she'll correct me. Mm-hmm. And, you know, from listening to your show, I realized just what I've been doing with the positive reinforcement in the treats is I've been saying to her, thank you for being my leader.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
I'm telling her that I'm weak, and I've been rewarding her for it, basically.
Right. And in doing that, this is very conflicting because you have what's called a love-hate relationship.
I do. I love her, but she does that to me, and I don't want to spend time with her. I don't want to walk her. It's very difficult.
Okay. And so listening to the radio show caused you to give me a ring? Is that how it worked, or someone?
I actually on Yelp. I found you on Yelp. I looked up dog aggression, and you had such wonderful reviews, and that's how I found you. And then I was listening to the radio show as well. Because honestly, it took me a while to call you. I felt silly. I felt ridiculous. Here's this really cute puppy that everybody tells me is just trying to play with me, and I can't control her. So it took me a while to come to you.
That's very interesting because people do say that the dog is playing. And they also term it, they say that this is called puppy behavior.
Yeah,
it's just
exactly.
play. Or she's teething, like a child would be teething.
Yeah.
And this is not true.
No, it's not true. And I can tell it's not true of her. I can see she has a look, and she's not playing with me. She's deadly serious.
Right. And you have become afraid of your dog.
Yeah.
Right. All right, so you decided, hey, I'm going to come and see this guy, and let's talk about that. When you first came in, what were you thinking? You came with your husband?
Yeah, I came with my husband. She doesn't do it to him. He has more of a dominant leadership role with her. But, there were certain things he kind of didn't feel like he was getting right. We went on the same page. So, we came in, honestly, he was skeptical about it. And we sat down, and you kind of looked at how we were with Edie. And we just chatted for about an hour. You just kind of found out everything about us and what we do with her, how she behaves, how we behave. And that was it. And we thought we were staying for the day. We were all settled on your couch. You kicked us out, and I was really upset. You said, come back in 5 hours. So we did. I was ready to stay.
That was so funny because I remember when you were, as I led you to the door, and you were completely outside the door. I was about to shut it, and you said, "Oh, are we leaving?"
We could kind of feel we were getting the, you should go now vibe, and we just didn't understand. We thought we were there, we were there for the day.
Well, I'm sorry about that, but yeah.
No.
That was kind of funny. Leroy and I laughed about that,
But so we left you with her, and we went off. And when we came back, if this wasn't a different dog, I mean, she was. It was just incredible. It was really incredible, and so nice to see her calm and not wound up and not trying to get to everything and not overexcited.
This is very interesting that you said that. You're not the first person to say that, because people would not think that you would say something like that. When you come back, my dog is calm.
Yeah.
Happy.
Yeah.
And you are able to see that without me mentioning that. You said, hey, my dog seems happy and calm.
Yeah.
That's really important when we talk about positive reinforcement from the concept of nature as opposed to positive reinforcement from the concept of the human mind. Okay?
Right.
It is positive, the results that we're getting. The mindset of the dog after it has gone through that process of socialization. The dog is happy. The dog is calm. And after you saw that, I showed you some things on how to walk the dog and bringing dogs out. And you saw, just explain how that looked to you when we were doing it. What did that feel like?
It was just unbelievable to have this dog under control. To see her be afraid of her environment as opposed to trying to get at everything and go for the dog and just not listen to me. It was just so great to see that and to be able to do that with her.
That's good that you noticed that, because I talk about dogs needing to see their environment as though it's a predator. And that's what you mean by her being afraid of her environment.
That's what I mean, exactly.
This is very natural. This is a natural thing that takes place. And very quickly I want to say, since you brought that up, around this time of the year, the fireworks, Okay, the guns being
Right.
shot. There are dogs that escape. They get out because they are afraid. The way these sounds affect them physically, inside. And what happens is even dogs that are deemed aggressive, they get loose. And for the first time in their life, they are completely free of us. There's no collars, there's no leash, there is no one there to embolden them. They are completely alone. Let's say in the Serengeti, we will call this now the Serengeti, where they're just free. Okay? And what happens is people are walking with their children and they see a dog running free and they say, "Hey, get away from me." And the dog runs out into the street and the horn is blown and, the screeching of the tires and everything is happening as though it's a predator against your dog. Okay? And so for the first time, your dog does not see its environment as though it's prey because it has to think. And this is how we find dogs that are running the street and we actually rescue them. And we say, "Oh, I found this dog running the streets. He's such a sweet dog." And they get him home when they are balanced. The environment actually balances them because all of the emotions are operating, the hormones are operating simultaneously. They're able to experience their environment and make a decision if they want to go there and they don't want to go there on their own without us. And then they are rescued, they're brought into our home, and then the cycle begins again because we now begin to think for them in a way that is related to positive reinforcement, the way humans think, and then all of a sudden, within a week or two, we end up saying, "Wow, this dog is aggressive." But that is the stress that's seeping back in, taking the place of the hormones that were once balanced. You see?
Right.
And so what you're talking about, when you're talking about your dog now, you are actually seeing all of the hormones in play. Okay?
Yes.
The dog is satisfied completely as a dog. And so
Yes.
then when you go home and I give you the little techniques to do to reinforce this, how has she been in the home?
She has been incredible in the home. She would always do this kind of Tasmanian devil routine where she'll go crazy. And it would be kind of like what she would do on the leash with me outside, but with less of the aggression, but it was very difficult to bring her back under control. She hasn't done that since. She's been asleep at my feet for 2 hours, and she's so calm. She leaves the door alone now when somebody comes to the door, which she's never done before. So it's just so lovely to spend time with her.
Right. And, the only other problem that you were having, because we talked about this, I think I called you yesterday,
Yes.
that you were still having a little problem on the leash outside the home. And this is very important because I want to say this, because in your home, you feel very confident.
Absolutely.
When you are in the streets, you don't feel that you are in control of everything that you see.
Right.
Okay, so you project this prey mentality when you're in that environment because it's a different world, and your dog picks up on that. And we do that because we're afraid of what people are going to think about us when we are being assertive with our dogs. And I want you to remember that when you are not this way and your dog is acting up, those same people are going to tell you your dog is terrible and you need to get rid of that dog. So since this dog is your property, it's up to you to say, "You know what? I don't really care what you think because I know what I've been going through and I know that I love my dog and I'm going to control this problem." So we allow for these people to say that because they're still asleep in my world, okay?
Right.
Because they don't have dogs like that, you see, and they're not trying to save a life. And so you went out last night and you did the things that I told you to do, and what happened?
she was wonderful. She just walked behind me. You know, I did what you told me to do when she looked like she was trying to get ahead, and it was so few times that I had to do it, and she didn't do the leash thrashing and the growling and the barking at me once.
Great. So you are now beginning to capture that leadership role. As I mentioned in my last show, there are rules to leadership. Okay? And the rules that have been in place before we started talking on this show are not powerful enough to sustain the life of dogs. The positive reinforcement from the concept of humans is a problem. And I believe that there is change that's taking place. And people like you are showing that, coming on the show to talk about how and you've been to other trainers before, right?
No, I haven't.
Oh,
but I have spent an awful lot of money on Amazon on training books.
Okay, well, that's fine. What that means to me is that the information that is available is still not enough to sustain what you need done.
Yeah, nobody is teaching what you're teaching, Brandon. It's just not out there.
Well, you saying that is going to help it to stay out there, because this is about saving the lives of dogs, and that's why I wanted you to come onto the show. And I want to thank you for bringing your dog to me and finding Yelp and getting some help for Evie. I mean,
well, thank you for having us. Honestly, it's changed our lives. Thank you.
Beautiful. And keep coming, keep in touch, and keep listening to the show. Okay?
I will.
All right. Thank you, Jane. All right. Great. Our next caller is Lou, and Lou has a dog named Dorian. How you doing, Lou?
Yep.
Well, Lou, tell us about this beautiful dog. I mean, if you were to go to the Facebook page, you'll see Dorian. He is a very beautiful dog. Actually, he is a terrier pit bull mix. Mm-hmm. And
right.
I don't know if you've listened to the last show or the show before. I talked about the terrier in the pit bull that is creating all of these problems. And now we actually have a terrier where the pit bull is inside of that. This is the reverse, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And so I want you to tell our listeners what you were going through. First, tell us where you got the dog from and why you decided to take this dog and what you've been going through before you came to see me.
Right. Well, I got him at a store called Barks and Bitches, which is right next to Canner's on Fairfax. Mm-hmm. And it's just a dog, like a pet store, but what they do is they go around to all the shelters and get really adoptable dogs and adopt them and then keep them and train them a bit and then sell them. Mm-hmm. So you're getting I get a rescue dog, but he came like pre-selected, pre-trained a little bit. Mm-hmm. So he came as a really good dog, and and when I went to Barks and Bitches, I walked him around outside. They let me have him for a couple hours outside of the store, and he seemed just super well behaved. He's super great with people. Docile. I pick him up. He didn't growl, nothing. But then when I was talking to them, they said he's super aggressive with dogs, and if I didn't get him trained, he's going to go either two ways. He's either going to be an amazing dream dog or he's going to be an absolute nightmare. Mm. And I was taken aback by that because I didn't see that at all. He just seemed like a super dream dog. Just super great with people, and he was fine with other dogs that we walked by, but of course that was just for an hour or so. So I adopted him, and then I started taking him to dog parks around LA, and when I'd be watching him, he'd be fine. He'd be running around with other dogs, and then I'd just trust him, and I'd go sit down and read or go on my phone, and out of the blue, I'd hear, "Oh my God!" And I'd look over, and I'd see Dorian in this huge dog fight with a pit bull. He'd get into these huge, vicious dog fights, not just a scruffle, but he'd get them by the neck and bite down and not let go, and I'd have to break him up, and it was the most brutal, vicious dog fights I'd ever seen. And by breaking up the dog fights, I'd end up getting bit really bad. And so I stopped taking him to the dog parks. And so that was just an easy fix for that. But then it's inevitable that he's going to be around other dogs at some point. So I took him to a couple trainers, one at PetSmart. They weren't aggressive specialists, and they didn't really help much. Mm-hmm. And then the breaking point happened a couple months ago. I took him to meet my friend's Jack Russell Terrier, and for the most part, they were just kind of playing around. But then when we were leaving, the Jack Russell started really going after Dorian, like attacking him, and Dorian snapped. And Dorian's kind of like a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, where like almost all the time he's just great, but then he'll just snap at a dog, and it'll be like a vicious fight. So I dove in to break up I dove in to stop it before it even started. As soon as I saw Dorian going for the Jack Russell, and my hand got in between the two dogs, and Dorian, my dog, accidentally bit my hand going for the other dog, and Dorian's got a really powerful pit bull jaw, so I had to get 5 stitches, and now I have like nerve damage, and we don't know if it's permanent or not, and it really sucks. So I'm like, all right, I really need to seek out a specialist and really nip this in the bud. So I just did a Google search, and I called around to a few different aggressive dog specialists, and Brandon just seemed like, when I talked to him, he seemed like the best, and I just trusted my gut, and I went with you. And so we're like mid-process, I would say.
Right.
Because he's been with you a couple times, full days, and the first day that the first like initial full day, you videotaped him with a bunch of other dogs, a bunch of big like pit bull dogs, and I saw him just playing around.
Right.
And other dogs kind of being a little aggressive with him, and him not snapping like I typically thought I would. And so that was amazing to see that. And you told me that he wasn't getting in any fights that whole day. And to be around like pit bulls and not get any fights for like numerous hours, it's amazing. And then actually, I didn't tell you this, but just like a couple days ago, my dad took him to play with a couple Jack Russell Terriers, and there was no fighting.
Oh,
they got along good.
Yeah, you didn't tell me that. Okay.
Yeah,
because
so
I
specifically
told you to chill on that for a moment. Remember?
But
it's okay.
Yeah, I know. My dad actually did it. I actually told my dad not to,
okay,
but he went ahead and did it anyways.
Right. No problem, but it was fine. For our listeners, I want to explain why this is through my evaluation with this dog Dorian. First of all, we always determine what mindset the dog has. Okay? You may have a dog, and I'll say, well, what is the dog mixed with? And I don't know, Rottweiler, German Shepherd, whatever that is. I'm always looking at, okay, what mindset does this dog have? Okay? What mindset? And in Dorian's case, he's got the terrier part of him wants to rip and tear and shake and, okay? And I don't know if you play games with him. Did you play ball and stuff like that with him? And
oh, yeah, we play catch every day.
And what about tug of war?
Never tug of war. He loves playing fetch with the tennis ball.
Okay.
So I got to chuck it, and we go out every day into like an open field, and I throw it around.
Okay.
For like
so this
minutes.
is the kind of thing we want to be careful with this mindset. We don't want to do things that are hormonally bringing out this type of mindset. You know, this shaking, tearing, chasing, predatory state of mind when there's aggression involved. Okay.
Okay.
That's something that you don't want to do. But in his case, we have to set him up to fail. And that means put him in a situation where he could do these kinds of things, but in a controlled environment, okay, with the right kind of dogs. See, in my place, I call it one flew over the cuckoo's nest. So I've got a lot of dogs with different personalities, different ways of living life, okay? I don't look at it necessarily as alpha, beta, subordinate, or runts. These are just a bunch of dogs together with different personalities, some more assertive than others, just like a room full of people. We don't say, oh, all the people with the A personalities over here and all the people with the B personalities over there. We don't do that. Everybody's together and we say, well, he doesn't like this and he likes that, okay? And so I have a group of dogs that work for me that have that ability where I say, okay, this is who we need to start him off with, and we go all the way up until we've got him hormonally, all of his hormones working properly to bring in the dominant assertive dog that's going to put that pressure on him that he's going to say, oh, okay, I'm not fighting for my life. I'm trying to figure out where I fit in. And that's what he needed. And also, Dorian had never been disciplined. I mean, I'm saying this to you. I don't believe he has based on what I have saw in him. He's never been disciplined. when he got to that level, he was always restrained, pulled back on a leash, or he was into the fight. And so we have to set him up to fail, and that's what we were able to do with him. And we haven't put the other videos up where he came again, but this time we just went straight out with all of the other dogs, everybody mixed together, and he just had a wonderful time. And you've got to see those videos because they're pretty fantastic. I'll be putting them up. And so now we're just in the beginning phases with Hugh because I need you to learn more about this particular breed and what not to do. But right now, I mean, my assistant, when you came in, I know you were asking her, she mentioned to me afterwards, which you don't know, she says that you said to her, is he really that good? Do you remember that?
Yeah, sure.
You were concerned about, hey, is this really going to happen? And yes, I'm really that good because I believe that aggression is just the highest form of communication. I believe that it's a dog that's acting out of stress, and we don't know how to relieve that stress. Okay? And that's what I do. So I want to...
So you think I shouldn't play fetch with him?
No, you should not play fetch with him. Because what you're saying to him when you play fetch is this inanimate object, which is what that ball is really a creature. It's really prey, Dorian. Okay?
Yeah.
And when you throw it, you produce that hormone that causes him to chase. There's like a lot
But he's a puppy with so much energy. How do I get this energy out of him?
Well, you're talking about physical energy, and dogs are built for that. You're never going to physically tire your dog out. It's just like you.
Right.
You can run 2 miles for months, and then pretty soon you're able to run 3 miles, 4 miles, right? So you're actually creating a better athlete with your dog when you do that. If you think about it, mental energy is more draining than physical energy. Okay? And that's how we need to be able to talk to our dogs. We can no longer think of them as just this physical thing to run, jump, climb, and do agility and sit, stay, come, and heel. They are much, much more than that. And I'm going to teach you how much more they are. But we can't do it all in one day, okay? I'm going to teach you how to have... Yeah, I'm going to teach you not everything in one session, but I'm going to teach you how to create the relationship that you need to have with your dog so that you're able to do the things that you want to do.
Okay.
Okay?
So if I'm going to stop playing fetch with him, what should I do physically with him? Just take him for walks?
Just take him for walks, right? Take him for walks, bring him to daycare, let him get that energy out with other dogs. Okay?
Okay. So I put him like on a bicycle and I go riding with him on a bicycle?
Yeah, you can do that as long as either two things are happening. You speed just a bit so that he's pulling you so he knows he's working. Okay?
Yeah.
Just a little pull where he's pulling you on the bike, not where it's too much of a strain for him. Or you're riding at a pace where he's not in front of you, he's slightly behind you on the bike.
Right.
Because then he's following you. Do you understand?
Right.
And when they do that, they're able to see things in their environment passing them at a rate that's equal to their heartbeat. In other words, when he sees something in the distance coming towards him and he's running at this pace, the heart is beating beep, 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 right? Then when he passes that thing, everything is balanced.
So it's okay if he doesn't sprint every day? If we just go for walks?
Yeah, of course. You don't have to sprint every day, right?
Right.
Yeah, you don't have to. Dogs are not doing what we've been told that they do every day. I mean, they're not, I mentioned before, if you were to go to the jungle, the Serengeti, you're not going to see animals running around. The only time they do that is for food. The rest of the time they're resting. If you see a dog that's running the street, he's not running all over the place. He's under a tree somewhere resting. The only time he gets up and moves is he's looking for food, water. Okay? And we'll talk more about it. Okay?
All right, great.
All right, thank you very much, and we will be seeing you again with Dorian. And I'll put those videos up for you to watch, okay?
All right, sounds great. Thanks
Fantastic.
a lot.
All right. Our next guest is Carolyn and Gary. Hello.
Hi, Brandon.
How you doing? It's been a while. I'm so happy to have you on because, your girls are the first dogs in a long time that came in and had genetic problems, okay? And we were able to go through the rehabilitation, and then medication came into play. And before we get into that, I want you to tell our listeners how you came to come to me. What were you going through before you came to me, and where these dogs came from?
We got the dogs from Czechoslovakia, actually,
Okay.
and they're German Shepherds. They're purebreds.
Mm-hmm.
They were kind of come from a law enforcement background, so they had that kind of background.
Okay.
When we got them, they were about 6 months old, almost 7 months old by the time that we got them.
Mm-hmm.
And initially they were kind of a handful. They weren't aggressive with each other or other dogs or other people ever, and they still aren't. And we went through the same thing the last guy did. We went through a PetSmart trainer, 2 or 3 other trainers, pretty extensive training, discipline training. A lot of it was positive reinforcement and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And when they came back from that intense training, they started fighting with each other.
Wow.
And it was pretty brutal. It was a lot like the last guy was saying, except it was they were directing it towards one another.
Okay.
And one of the dogs was always the aggressor, and it was always the more anxious dog, the dog that spins all the time. She'll pick an object and run in circles around it, walk by her, and she'll jump up and start spinning in a tight circle.
Okay.
And we kept working with trainers regarding that aggression, and the same thing happened. Nobody was really specialized with aggression. And actually, one of them referred us, gave us your name, and we looked on the internet, and similarly, there was a lot of good feedback. And while we were doing that, they got into a massive fight, and they had about 7 or 8 fights. And this last fight was pretty horrific, where the one who always initiates it really hurt the other one pretty badly. Although we're not really sure who initiates it. It's kind of back and forth. We go back and forth on who it is, but we think it's the more anxious one.
Right.
So at that point, we felt that we just had no choice, and we were going to give one of them up. And and so we contacted you, and you were willing to take the dog, and you told us that you would never adopt her out and you would keep her, and that made us feel better. And it broke our hearts, and so we couldn't give her up, and we talked to you, is there any way we could keep her? And you said absolutely, and you were really positive about it, and you asked us to bring both dogs to you. We left both dogs with you for 7 weeks. And it was funny because we got there too, and we were expecting to stay the whole day.
I didn't know that.
And, we're thinking we got to do all this stuff, and but you sat us down and probably talked to us for about over an hour, and made us feel really comfortable, and told us some of the things that you were going to be doing, which are things that you've already talked about. And we left the dogs with you for 7 weeks, and you talked to us pretty much on a, every other day, maybe a weekly basis. And then when we got the dogs back, we would have sit-downs with you once a week, and you would talk to us about any problems that arose. And we were targeting the aggressive behavior between the two. And a lot of it had to do with, I think, the socialization of these 2 dogs with your dogs there. And then since we've gotten them back, it's funny because we used to do the throw the ball, run the dog, walks, and toys.
Right.
And that
and treats.
Yeah, and treats. You told us how to handle that, and that made a remarkable difference. And some of the other things that you spent time talking to us about, and it's getting to the point now where they tolerate each other really well. I don't think they're ever going to be best buddies.
Right. Yeah, because
one of them has the genetic issue.
Right. And that's where the medication has come in.
Right. And I've noticed, and see, for me, I kind of relate to the first woman. I was not afraid of the two, but I was afraid of the fight that could occur.
Mm-hmm.
So that was kind of controlling my behavior. They were picking up on that. But the spitting got so bad, it was tiring the one dog out. And once we got them on and you suggested that we talk to the vet about the medication, and you actually took a video. We showed the vet the video, and she just immediately went, oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So now she's on medication, and it really seems to be helping.
Yeah, I want to say something, because this is a very, very sensitive subject here. When doctors prescribe medication for these types of problems, it's usually for, we'll say, genetic disorders, for behavior in terms of calming them down. Anxiety is what I'm trying to say, okay? And to reduce the anxiety within the dog, and that's what that flipping around, the tail chasing is about. Mm-hmm. And the medication is to control that behavior, because it's winding them up when they do that, Mm-hmm. And it's very interesting because, I have a dog, a personal dog myself that does that. But I don't have him on a medication. But I offered for you to be on medication because you're not doing what I do, okay? And I know how to bring him out of that state of mind and keep him socialized with extreme socialization so that he doesn't go into the aggressive state. And plus, I believe you have two sisters there from the same litter.
Correct.
And that they always are competing with each other. So you're dealing with that too.
Right.
And also, here's another thing. When we think about getting dogs from breeders, and the rescuers are always saying, hey, don't go to a breeder, adopt a dog. We have plenty of dogs that need to be adopted, and I agree with that. And, I have known some breeders that bred German Shepherds strictly for companion dogs. But the ones that are online, a lot of the breeders that can put their name out there, they have two things that they're doing. Most of them are also using them for agility work and law enforcement work, and then they're also adopting dogs out as pets. Okay?
Right.
But the law enforcement and a lot of the agility, they need dogs that the reactivity of the nervous system is high. Okay?
Yeah.
And so when we go looking for a companion dog, we go to these areas where, the internet is blinking at us and we're saying, oh, here's a dog, and there's a dog. And then you'll see like their page showing dogs doing agility and, a lot of physical activity.
Yeah, absolutely right.
Right?
Yeah.
And so, not thinking, wait a minute, what's going on here? We go there and we get a dog. Right?
Right.
But what I want you to start looking at is these are what we call working dogs, okay? And sometimes you will get a dog that's genetically high-strung like that, that's for working, which is what the police need and which is what agility people need, hunters need, and you get that dog, and that's what you got.
Right. That's what we got.
Yeah.
Right. So you're dealing with a genetic problem, a genetic predisposition to be that way, along with whatever learned behaviors that you put in the dog by having two sisters together and by practicing positive reinforcement, love and affection, treats, tricks, games, and things of that nature that have actually made them jealous of each other.
That's exactly what happened.
Yeah. And a lot of people out there, they don't realize that, but that's what's happening. Okay?
Right.
And so now you're at home, and even though the dogs have come back, they've gotten into certain scuffles, but you guys have realized where you have gone wrong.
Yes.
Right, exactly.
That was the main point. It was us.
Right. And that's very important for you guys to talk about with our listeners because, there are a lot of people that are out there that are saying, hey, we just want to love our dogs and give them this, and we don't understand why they're fighting. And I want you guys to kind of tell them about that because that's what you are doing. You just want to love your dogs.
Right, and that's kind of a push-pull kind of situation. It's you want the dog as a companion, and you want them to jump up on your lap and pet them. But with our environment, with our type of dogs, we had to really back off of that. And we've noticed that the more affectionate we are with them and lovey-dovey with them, we are setting up a situation where they get jealous of each other, and it can culminate in a fight.
Mm-hmm.
So we really have had to back off of that, but not completely, because they are our dogs and we love them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We don't rile them up, and I think that was the best one of the many pieces of advice that helps a lot is we don't rile them up with the tug of war type of things and games and things like that. We try to keep them calm, and we aren't as touchy with them as we have been in the past. And that seems to create a calmer environment for them. And we do bring them back to you quite a bit for the socialization thing, because that seems to really bring down the anxious dog when he spends time at your place.
Yeah, because they get a chance to have all of the emotions working simultaneously with all the other dogs,
Right.
And this whole concept of play, I understand we want to get a dog, we want to play with them, but you of all people now know that the play that you were doing were bringing forth the monsters that you didn't want.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Okay? And I can't say this enough. When we see dogs doing this, they're not playing. I don't want you to think in terms of play. Put that in the background. In the forefront, I want you to understand that they're trying to determine who is more dominant than the other without actually fighting.
Yeah.
Okay? And what I mean by that, they want to figure out where they fit in this pack.
Mm-hmm.
And so this humping and jumping and smelling and wrestling all helps them to figure out where they fit in with that particular dog and with this particular dog. Okay?
Yeah.
And so we could say, yes, that's play because they are enjoying themselves, but at the same time, the reason for the enjoyment is to figure out where they fit in.
Yeah, and I think the comparison is that's with other dogs, and then we as people, want to play with them because we think, because it's cool for us, we want to play with them, we want to touch them, we want to put them in these little outfits, and they're not really interested in that, and for some reason we think they are.
Right.
And you kind of made us realize, they don't really necessarily want to do that. They're more interested in eating and kind of hanging out. And we're the ones jumping in there going, let's go play ball, and we get them all riled up, and then we get them into the situation, at least our dogs, where they could fight.
Exactly. And, getting them all riled up is, of course, producing that problem, but that's something you want to do. They don't really need that.
Right, that's what I mean.
They just want to be with you.
Uh-huh.
That's all they want to do is just be with you. And you've seen, I remember when you took them back, you were able to take them out, let them run. They're not concerned with any other dog, with any other person. They're just out enjoying themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
You've given them that freedom.
Uh-huh.
And they said, yes, this is what we need because it's part of their job description.
Uh-huh.
When you start playing these games, then you make that their job description.
Right.
Okay? And then eventually they're going to focus on each other because you've got one dog that is more subordinate than the other. So the one that's more assertive looks at your other dog and sees that they're more submissive. This emboldens her to become more assertive and dominant over her. You see?
Exactly. Yeah.
And so that's the predator-prey game.
Mm-hmm.
But they've taken it too far. And I want to go back to what you were saying when you took them someplace for that. What did you call it? The aggressive training? What did you say it?
That was for discipline training. How to walk and how to sit, how to stay.
Uh-huh.
Telling them to do all these things that they didn't really want to do, which just caused more anxiety, I think.
But I'm saying, what was the term you used? What did you say? How did you say it was called? Did you say aggressive training, or how did you phrase that?
Discipline training.
Okay, discipline training. Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So here's the thing. because I talk about discipline domination, but discipline training, now that's more specific. That's when you are forcing a dog to do something that they naturally do.
Yeah.
Okay? Which I'm not in agreement with that.
Yeah, neither are we anymore.
Okay.
No longer are we.
Exactly.
That's when all the problems started.
Exactly. And that's why we call this advanced socialization. See, dogs need socialization. They don't need to be disciplined and forced, and you take the prong collar and you correct them to make them sit and that kinds of things. You're creating other behavioral problems.
Yep.
I never liked forcing a dog to do something that they already know how to do. I never met a dog that didn't know how to sit. Or lay down or any of those things. I mean, they come here knowing how to do that. So all we have to focus on can we socialize this dog with this that's a part of my life? Or if that rabbit is a part of my life, or that cat is a part of my life, how can we socialize them with those things? Okay?
Right.
That's all they need.
Yeah.
And
that works.
And that works, exactly. And so, you guys have gone through, I think, more than anyone I've had on the show, because, how long has it been? You've been doing this for some time now, and you did not give up on your dog.
No.
And you are successful with this. You know
2
that you
years,
have,
Brandon. 2
yeah,
years.
You have a genetic problem. This is genetic, okay?
Yeah.
So when I say genetic problems you can learn to cope with and learn behaviors they can unlearn, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's possible.
Yes. And that's what I want our listeners to know. You don't have to give up. What you've got to do is get the right information to be successful and save your dogs.
Right, and the right information isn't always what you would naturally think is what you should be doing. It's almost the opposite.
Yes, it is the opposite. And
it's like the first woman was saying, you read all these books and they're telling you to do exactly what you shouldn't be doing.
Yeah, we have to actually start to think differently. I mean, let's look at this, I always humanize this thing. Let's look at it as a relationship. I mean, if you're continually in a relationships that are not working and you never change, then you're doomed to repeat the same neurotic behavior, right? So if we are practicing this concept of training and forcing that on our dogs, which I believe they already know how to do, but they would be doing it for a different reason, especially when it involves aggression. If we continue to do that and we refuse to change our methods because of how we feel about the word discipline or domination or positive reinforcement, if we won't make that change, then we're no better than the dog that won't give up his aggressive tendencies, right?
Right.
We can't blame the dog if they don't want to give it up, if we don't give up what we believe in.
Right.
We have to say, well, okay, I believe in that, but let me look at this. Okay? Let me look at it from this perspective. Let me try this. And if it works, then let me go further into this thing. I believe that if we're going to achieve no kill, we're going to have to educate people first. We don't don't need to train the dogs. We don't need to rehabilitate the dogs. We need to train people. We need to teach people how to evaluate their relationship with their dog. And then once the person gets confident, like you guys have become confident in your dogs, then you can solve your own problems.
Right.
You don't need anyone else. So if trainers and behavioralists can teach you how to do what we're doing with your dog, that's when we're going to be successful.
Right.
Agreed.
That's what this show is about. You can't keep what you don't give away. So I'm showing you, telling you, giving you information. Week after week, people are coming on saying this worked instantly. I understand it more. I've got the right information now. That's what it's going to take, because your dog is a dog that could have ended up in the shelter.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
James' dog could have ended back up in the shelter.
Yeah.
Lou could have returned his dog again. Because we say, hey, I've been to trainers, I've tried this, it didn't work. Boom, this dog is damaged.
Mm-hmm.
I say that we're damaged.
Yeah.
Right? We need to learn.
Right.
So this information is available, and I thank you guys for tuning in too, and becoming a client and believing in this and loving your dog enough to stay with it, because you guys know more than what you think you know. At times you may feel weak, but you've got a number to call to plug yourself back into that electricity.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And we do.
And I'm always available for you, and I want you to tell our listeners that I am always available for you.
Oh yeah, we text him and
Right.
call him on the dot. If we have a question or a problem. And I think what's really helpful is we have a place, if we want to travel, we have a place where we can take them.
Right.
And we know that you've got all the tools you need there, and there's a socialization that continues to go on. So when you get back from a trip, they're not all hyped up because they've been somewhere closed up. They're
Absolutely.
with you.
They've been getting what they need.
Right.
And that's what it's about. Well, look, the time is rolling again. I want to thank you, Carolyn and Gary, for coming on and talking about Greta and Elka. I want to thank Jane. I want to thank Lou for coming on. And we will see you once again next Thursday at 1 o'clock p.m. on the Fouché Way radio show. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Brandon.
You're welcome.
You're listening to Fouché Way with Brandon Fouché, right here on LA Talk Radio.